It's 12 midnight. Are you afraid of the dark?
Story 1. The Locked Basement Door. I'm not the kind of person who gets spooked easily. I've done solo road trips, hiked through remote national parks alone, even camped off-grid in the middle of nowhere. But nothing ever made me feel the way that Airbnb house did. This happened last fall, around late October. I'm a freelance photographer and I was driving through Pennsylvania to shoot some of the autumn foliage around the Poconos. I had a week to kill between gigs and thought, why not turn this into a little working vacation? So I booked a house just outside a small town called Milford. Quiet place, borderline boring, but beautiful. The Airbnb listing showed this rustic 2-story home with big windows, a fireplace, and an overgrown backyard that looked like it hadn't seen a gardener in years. I loved it. It was the kind of place that looked like it should be haunted, but only in the way an old postcard might be. Charming, not terrifying. I arrived around 5:30 p.m. in my silver Subaru Outback, just as the sun was dipping low behind the trees. The host wasn't there, just a lockbox on the front porch with a key and a note inside, handwritten, said something like, "Welcome, make yourself at home. Feel free to use anything in the kitchen. Wi-Fi passwords taped to the fridge. Basement's locked. Please don't try to open it." I remember thinking that's oddly specific, but I brushed it off. Every place has its quirks. Maybe it was being renovated. Maybe it was storage. Maybe they just didn't want guests snooping. The house had that old wood smell, like it had soaked in years of fireplace smoke and pine needles. There was a slight chill inside, not enough to be uncomfortable, just enough to notice. I turned up the heat, made some coffee, and decided to unwind before dinner. The place was quiet. Too quiet. No road noise, no neighbors, just the creaking of floorboards and the wind knocking leaves against the windows. That night around midnight, I was editing photos on my laptop in the living room when I heard a thump, a single dull sound like something had been dropped. It came from downstairs, from the basement. I froze for a second and listened. Nothing else. Just the hum of the heater and the wind outside. I remembered the note and muttered to myself, probably just something fell from a shelf. But the idea wouldn't leave my head. The basement was locked, right? So how could something fall? Maybe there was a window open down there. Maybe an animal got in, or maybe someone else had a key. I told myself to ignore it. I even made a joke in my head like, yeah, probably just the ghost trying to unpack. But the seed of unease was already planted. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I went about my day like nothing was wrong. I hiked through Raymondskill Falls, shot some great autumn photos, had lunch at this little cafe called Apple Valley, super cute place, and tried not to think about the noise. When I got back around 6 p.m., something was off. Not huge, just off. The kitchen chair I usually sat in was pulled out further than I remembered. A coffee mug I'd left in the sink was now on the counter. I actually laughed out loud like, wow, I'm really starting to gaslight myself, huh? I chalked it up to me being forgetful. Then I noticed something I hadn't before. The hallway light near the basement was on, and I swear on everything, I hadn't turned that on. I walked over, heart suddenly thudding in my chest. The basement door was still locked. I jiggled the knob to check. Yeah, still secure. But something made me lean in close and press my ear against the wood. I don't know what I expected. What I didn't expect was to hear a faint, rhythmic tapping, like someone knocking, but not loud, not attention-grabbing, just steady. Tap, tap, tap. I backed away slowly and turned off the hallway light. I didn't sleep at all that night. I left the TV on, something cheerful, The Office, I think, and kept every light in the house burning. The final straw came on the third night. I was brushing my teeth in the upstairs bathroom when I heard footsteps downstairs. Not just creaks, actual footsteps. Slow, deliberate, as if someone was walking from the living room toward the kitchen. Then, nothing. No retreating steps, no door closing, just silence. I stood there, toothbrush frozen in my mouth, foam dribbling down my chin. I grabbed my phone, turned off the bathroom light, and crept down the stairs. No one was there, but the hallway light near the basement was back on, and the basement door was wide open. That's when I panicked. I didn't even check inside. I grabbed my bag, keys, camera, everything I could, and practically sprinted to my car. As I pulled out of the driveway, I looked back. The basement light was on too. And just before I turned the corner, I swear, I saw someone standing in the window. A man, pale, wearing a white shirt, watching me leave. I called the Airbnb host the next morning, pretending I just decided to leave early. They acted normal, offered a refund, never mentioned the basement. But I checked the listing again a week later, just out of curiosity. It was gone, deleted, like it had never been there. I still think about that place, about who or what was in that basement. I haven't stayed in an Airbnb since, and if you do, maybe just ask why the basement's locked. Story 2. The hidden room behind the mirror. I was supposed to be celebrating. I just graduated from university in Portland, and my parents gifted me a solo weekend trip to unwind before starting my new job. They let me choose where, so I picked Astoria, quiet coastal town, right at the mouth of the Columbia River. I'd been there once before and loved the foggy mornings, the vintage shops, the moody feel of it all. Like a town that's always keeping a secret. The Airbnb I booked was an old Victorian home turned rental unit divided into two sections, an upper-level unit and a main floor guest suite. Mine was the main floor. The host, Lila, messaged me ahead of time and said she'd left the key under the ceramic frog next to the steps. There it was, exactly as promised. The house itself was stunning. Faded blue paint, creaky wooden porch, and these stained glass windows that looked like they'd witnessed 100 years of storms and secrets. Inside was cozy, if a little outdated. Floral wallpaper, antique furniture, hardwood floors. The bathroom had one of those claw foot tubs and a mirror framed in tarnished gold. Very vintage, very grandma chic, and something about it made me uneasy the moment I stepped inside. It wasn't dirty or anything. It was just heavy, like the air had weight. You know how some places feel like they're holding their breath? The first day passed uneventfully. I explored the town, ate fish and chips at Moe's, and even bought a vintage jacket from a shop called the Rusty Pearl. But that night, things shifted. I'd just finished brushing my teeth and was about to turn off the bathroom light when I noticed something off about the mirror. There was a ripple. Not a crack, not fog, a ripple. Like the reflection had shuddered just once and then froze back in place. I stared at it for a good minute, thinking I was just tired. But then I leaned in closer and noticed the edge of the mirror wasn't flush with the wall. There was a tiny gap behind it. I don't know what compelled me. Curiosity, maybe, but I gently tried to lift it. And to my surprise, the whole mirror popped out like it was mounted on a hinge. Behind it, a hollow space, a dark crawl space carved out between the walls. The opening was about 3 feet wide and maybe 5 feet tall. Inside, it was pitch black, the kind of dark that swallows light, and just sitting there on the floor was a small rocking horse. I immediately backed away and shut the mirror. My brain went 100 places at once. Why is that even there? Was it a playroom? A storage crawl space? Did the host even know? I messaged Lila, asking politely if she knew there was a cavity behind the bathroom mirror. She replied an hour later, "Oh wow, that's strange. I think the house might have had some renovations done in the 50s. I don't know anything about a crawl space though. That's new to me." It felt too casual, like she wasn't taking it seriously. That night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to a soft thudding sound. Thump, 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 like something rocking back and forth. I sat up, confused, then heard a soft creak. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and walked to the bathroom. Everything looked normal until I checked the mirror again. It was slightly ajar, just enough to see the rocking horse. And now, it was facing outward. I slammed the mirror shut and wedged the laundry basket against it. I couldn't breathe. I didn't know whether to call the police or a priest. But I stayed up the rest of the night with every single light in the place turned on. The next day, I packed my things. I didn't care that it was only day 2 of a 3-day booking. I left a note saying, "Thanks for the stay. Had to leave early. Family emergency." I drove home in total silence, glancing in the rearview mirror way too often. A few days later, I looked up the property again on Airbnb. Still listed, still accepting bookings. But I noticed something new in the reviews, a post from another guest just 2 weeks before me. Cool place, kind of spooky vibe. But yeah, bathroom mirror moves a bit. Could hear something shifting behind the wall at night. Probably raccoons or something. No way. I filed a report to Airbnb and never heard back. The listing was removed 3 weeks later. No explanation. I still wonder if I imagined it all. If maybe I was just overtired. But I can't unsee that little wooden horse. Or the way it stared out into the room like it was waiting for someone. Story 3, The Guest Who Never Checked Out. I travel for work, mostly installing custom audio setups for small theaters, bars, and community halls. It's a weird niche job, but it pays well and keeps me on the road. That's how I ended up in New Mexico last December, booking a last-minute Airbnb just outside of Santa Fe. The photos showed a small Adobe-style guest house with wooden beams, colorful tile, and desert views. Looked peaceful. The host, a woman named Helen, confirmed quickly and left a message. "Welcome. You'll have the whole casita to yourself. Please don't use the main house door. It's been sealed for years. Let me know if you need anything." Sealed for years? Weird, but I shrugged it off. I arrived late, around 11:30 p.m., in my rental, a gray Ford Escape. It was cold, desert cold, that bone-deep, silent kind of chill. The casita was cute and clean, with a little kitchenette and a fireplace. No TV, no mirrors, oddly enough. I only noticed that later. There was 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and this long hallway leading to a dead-end door, painted over. Clearly the one Helen had warned me not to use. Fine. I unpacked my things and went straight to bed. Sometime around 3 a.m., I woke up freezing. The fireplace was off even though I'd set a timer for it. I got up, flipped the switch, and waited for the gas to kick in. Then I heard it. A knock, not on the front door, on the sealed door at the end of the hallway. 3 soft knocks. I stared down the hall, too frozen to move. Then, after a few seconds, I heard a voice. A woman's voice. Faint. Muffled, like it was coming from the other side of the door.
You don't belong here.
I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I texted Helen. Hey, sorry to bother you. I thought I heard something last night from the sealed room. Is anyone else staying here? She replied 3 hours later.
Nope, no one else there. Maybe the pipes knocking from the cold? That door hasn't been open since 2009.
That was specific. I finished my work that day and almost didn't come back to the Airbnb, but I needed my stuff, so I returned. That night, same thing. 3 a.m., knocking. Then,
Get out while you can.
this time I ran, grabbed my duffel, phone, charger, left everything else. I spent the rest of the night in my car at a Circle K parking lot, chugging gas station coffee and trying not to freak out. When I returned in daylight to grab the rest of my gear, I brought a friend who lived in Albuquerque. We opened every drawer, looked behind every curtain. There was no one there. The sealed door was just that, sealed, painted over, padlocked. But as we were leaving, my friend noticed something carved into the wood at the bottom of the doorframe. Not visible unless you were kneeling. It said, Room 2. She never left. We backed out without saying another word. I later Googled the address. Turns out, before it was an Airbnb, it was a small retreat center. In 2009, a guest named Eloisa went missing there. No foul play ever proven, just gone. Maybe Helen didn't know. Maybe she did. All I know is that door wasn't knocking from the pipes. And that voice? She didn't want me there. Thank you for listening. Until next time, remember, midnight is never truly over.